Christopher Columbus, 1451 to 1506, is one of the most famous explorers in history, known for his voyages across the Atlantic Ocean, which led to the European discovery of the Americas. His expeditions opened up a new chapter in world history, which would eventually lead to the European colonization of the New World. Here's a detailed account of his life and achievements. Christopher Columbus was born in 1451 in Genoa, modern-day Italy. His father, Domenico Colombo, was a wool weaver, and his mother, Susanna Fontanarosa, came from a family of noble descent. Columbus grew up in a bustling port city, which likely influenced his interest in sailing and exploration. At a young age, Columbus began his education in navigation and geography. Although his family was not wealthy, Columbus worked as a young apprentice on merchant ships, gaining valuable experience in sailing and navigation. His early life was marked by deep interest in the sciences, particularly astronomy and cartography. By the late 15th century, European nations, especially Portugal and Spain, were looking for new trade routes to Asia. They were eager to access valuable spices, silk, and other goods from the East, but the traditional routes through the Middle East were increasingly controlled by the Ottoman Empire. Columbus, however, had a different idea. He believed that he could reach Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean. His idea was based on the premise that the Earth was round and that the distance between Europe and Asia to the west was much shorter than others believed. Columbus was convinced that by crossing the Atlantic, he could find a new route to Asia that would bypass the existing trade routes controlled by the Arabs and the Ottomans. Columbus spent several years trying to secure funding for his expedition. He first approached the King of Portugal, John II, but the Portuguese court was not convinced by his plans. Undeterred, Columbus sought support from other European monarchs. In 1485, after being rejected by the Portuguese, Columbus traveled to Spain, where he appealed to Queen Isabella I and King Ferdinand II. Spain was embroiled in the final stages of the Reconquista, the centuries-long process of driving the Moors from the Iberian Peninsula. But Isabella and Ferdinand were intrigued by Columbus's proposal. After several years of negotiations, in 1492, the Catholic monarchs of Spain agreed to fund Columbus's journey. In return, Columbus promised them riches, territories, and the spread of Christianity in the newly discovered lands. Columbus set sail from the port of Palos de la Frontera in Spain on August 3, 1492, aboard 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The crew consisted of around 90 men, and Columbus's goal was to sail west to Asia. However, Columbus was unaware that an entire continent lay between Europe and Asia. After weeks of sailing across the unknown waters of the Atlantic, Columbus and his crew faced growing anxiety and fear. The crew was growing impatient, and there were even threats of mutiny. On October 12, 1492, land was finally sighted. Columbus and his men had arrived on an island in the Bahamas, which he believed to be part of the East Indies. Columbus named the island San Salvador, but the exact location remains uncertain. He also explored parts of Cuba and Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti, and the Dominican Republic before returning to Spain in March 1493. The news of Columbus's discovery created a sensation in Europe. While he had not found the route to Asia, he had discovered a new world, which would eventually lead to European colonization of the Americas. In 1493, Columbus embarked on a second voyage, this time with a much larger fleet of 17 ships and over 1,000 men. His mission was to establish a permanent Spanish settlement in the New World and continue exploring the islands he had encountered on his first voyage. Columbus returned to the Caribbean, where he established a settlement on Hispaniola. However, his second voyage was marred by difficulties. The settlers faced harsh conditions, and Columbus struggled to maintain control over the island. Tensions with indigenous peoples also escalated, and Columbus's leadership began to be questioned by both the Spanish crown and his own men. Columbus's third voyage took place in 1498, and this time he sailed further south, reaching the mainland of South America at the Orinoco River in modern-day Venezuela. Columbus was convinced that this was part of the Asian continent. He also explored several Caribbean islands, including Trinidad and the coast of present-day Venezuela. However, this voyage was also marked by increasing unrest. Columbus's administration of the colonies was under scrutiny, and there were complaints about his harsh rule and the treatment of indigenous populations. Columbus was eventually arrested and sent back to Spain in chains in 1500. His reputation had taken a significant blow, and his ability to govern effectively was questioned. In 1502, Columbus was granted a fourth voyage, though he was stripped of his position as governor of the New World. Despite his declining fortunes, Columbus set sail once again, this time to explore more of the Central American coast. He reached modern-day Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama, but he still believed he was on the outskirts of Asia. Columbus's fourth voyage was his longest and most difficult. The expedition faced constant storms, shipwrecks, and hostile encounters with indigenous peoples. Columbus was unable to secure the wealth he had promised to Spain, and his final years as an explorer were marred by failure. Columbus returned to Spain in 1504, broken and disillusioned. He never realized the true scale of his discoveries or the enormous impact they would have on history. He died on May 20th, 1506, at the age of 54, still convinced that he had found a new route to Asia, even though he had discovered something far more significant, a new world. Columbus's voyages, although not successful in achieving his original goal, opened up the Americas to European exploration and colonization. His journeys marked the beginning of the Age of Discovery, which would lead to the establishment of European empires across the world. While Columbus is often celebrated for his achievements, his legacy is also controversial. His encounters with indigenous peoples led to the colonization and exploitation of the Americas, which resulted in the suffering and decimation of native populations. His voyages are seen as the beginning of a dark chapter in history, marked by the forced migration of Africans, the spread of diseases, and the establishment of European dominance in the New World. Christopher Columbus was a figure of great ambition and determination. While he did not accomplish his original goal of finding a direct route to Asia, His voyages had a profound and lasting impact on world history. His discoveries reshaped the world's map and set the stage for the global exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. However, the consequences of his exploration were complex and often devastating for the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Today, Columbus is remembered both as a pioneering explorer and a controversial figure whose legacy continues to spark debate. If you liked this story, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you for watching.